What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to the Shit That Needs to Be Said show. Live every Wednesday at noon Eastern Standard Time. Totally happy to be here. Totally looking forward to the first official episode, which is coming up on Wednesday, February 1st. If you're watching a replay of this, I will be taking next Wednesday off. I'm going to remind everybody throughout the show here that next Wednesday I'm going to be taking off so that I can get prepared for the February 1st show, the very first show where I will be joined by my surprise co host. Very much looking forward to that. Yeah, and just a couple other things that are going on in the background that are going to keep me a little bit busy for a couple days next week. And one of those days happens to be Wednesday, so I don't want to have to plan on going live and then having something come up and not being able to do it. JM, brother, happy Wednesday, my friend. Good to see you. I was just making a note that next Wednesday I am taking a week off, but the first official show will be Wednesday, February 1st, where I will be joined by with my surprise co-host Thompson. Good to see you, my friend. BSRC. Good to see you, my friend, my brother. Yeah. So let's kick today's show off with a bit of news from the racing world. I know last week I talked about the Chili Bowl that was going on, and it was a pretty good race. Saturday is always an exciting day with the alphabet. I believe they were all the way into the O main event, so they had to go make their way from the O to the A. Which I believe this year somebody made it from the O to the J main or something like that, which was a new record for transferring through all of those main events. I know several years ago, Jason McDougall almost, I think he started out in like the J or the L main event, and I think he made his way all the way up to like the C at some before he was accidentally taken out by another driver. But this year, a great kid, Logan Seavey, ended up winning the A main with Tanner Thorson coming in second. These are a couple of great up and coming racers. The main event to me seemed a little bit like the track had kind of was, for the most part, was kind of a one groove, and it was fairly difficult for guys to get to do a lot of passing. And that typically the Chili Bowls had a 2-lane track where guys could jump up on the high side and run the cushion and make a really solid race of it. But this year I know they did some emergency track prep like after the B main before the A main, and a lot of the guys seem to think that the track really hadn't come in all the way yet by the end of the main. So yeah, I think it took a little bit away because it did seem like the guys who would try to jump up to the high side early on would drop back a few spaces. Then they just kind of had to follow along. Later on in the race, they seemed to get the cushion working a little bit better, but by that time it was too late. Guys that had to start in the back of the pack, it was very, very difficult for them to move forward. Not to mention Logan Seavey, that car was working pretty good. It looked to me like there was a lot of cars that the setup was off. I mean, when you change and do track prep right before a main event like that, it's really difficult for you to nail the setup. And it looked like Kevin Swindell and those guys got that car set up about as good as they could. Tanner Thorson's guys also did a good job of getting that car set up, and they put on a heck of a show. But yeah, in the end, it was Logan Seavey And like I said, a couple of great kids, couple of up and comers. I expect to see Logan CV running a lot of USAC stuff this year. Was a little disappointed. Kind of my personal favorite, and I'm a little bit biased because a friend of mine that works at Keith Coons. But I was looking forward to, and I thought that this was going to be Buddy Kofoid's year. In his main event, he looked really, really good until he kind of screwed himself up and ran into a crash by himself, and then trying to work his way through the C main to make it into the B main. He ended up getting tangled up in another crash. So this guy just can't seem to buy a bucket at the Chili Bowl. But that being said, Buddy is also one of the younger drivers that has a very, very bright future. Really hoping that Buddy sticks in open wheel racing. It seems like he might be going down the NASCAR path like a lot of the younger guys are. But it's also understandable. Now, if you want to make a career in dirt track open wheel racing, you're not going to have the financial success that you would going into NASCAR. I think a prime example would be what Kyle Larson's been talking about this whole year, and him and Brad Sweet starting their own sprint car series, primarily because, it just doesn't pay that much to run USAC or World of Outlaw. And it is a grueling schedule. Both USAC and Outlaw requires you to, I believe, race probably 40 weeks a year, and you could be racing 3 or 4 nights a week in some of those weeks. And it's pretty tough to do that. And, not to mention, especially the Outlaw series, they've kept the prize money pretty much the same since the mid 90s. So, but on the other end of the racing spectrum, the Western Shootout, which was also running several days last week, and they had their A-Main Saturday night. That was a pretty good A-Main. There were 3 guys. There was Spencer Markler and Kyle Larson that were pretty much locked at 1, 2, 3 throughout the entire main event. And those guys raced every single lap like it was the last lap. They were trading the lead in second and third place, back and forth, going through lap traffic. Really good race. I'm typically not somebody that watches a lot of late model dirt racing, but being that there isn't a whole lot going on right now, that was something that I did go back and watch. Yeah, JM, 2 races a week. So that's better. I know, back in my sprint car midget days, national series, if you were running sprint car midget and Silver Crown, you were definitely doing 2 races, sometimes 3 races a week, and that would depend on if the Hoosier Dome was running, and even going along with that, the days of the guys who were trying to run the Western States series as well as the national series, which doesn't seem to happen as much now. It seems like a lot of guys will commit. But it is nice to see that they're only doing 2 races a week. I know the Outlaw series is pretty locked in to 2, and they usually have multiple nights. Wednesday special and a full weekend. Chainsaw, good to see you. Hey, Basher boy. Nice to see you. Thanks for stopping in and saying hello. I was just sort of recapping some dirt track racing that happened over the weekend. I know that there's some stuff coming up from Australia and New Zealand as well. I believe if you want to see any of that stuff, you probably have to subscribe to Flow Racing in order to see a lot of their stuff. But I know that, and in particular, for the next couple of days, there isn't actually a lot going on in Flow Racing. They're showing a lot of old races and reruns and stuff, but most of that stuff you can probably go back and watch on YouTube. Anyhow, and of course, Supercross, they canceled Oakland because California is just flooded. Seems like everywhere in California is flooding. And honestly, I think it was probably a smart decision. The track was going to be a mess. The Dirtworks crew was already talking about the issues that they were having with just even getting the track built because of the rain and the mud, and there wasn't a lot of time in between rain to even get the track set up right. So chances are it was going to be ugly and a mess, and they didn't have the opportunity to swap dates with like Anaheim because Anaheim had monster trucks going this weekend. They could have swapped with San Diego, but there just wasn't enough time. So I think they moved the date into February, and yeah, I think it was a smart move. Plus, you know, these Supercross guys racing every week. If you give them a week off, that's good for them. You know, a little bit of a break. BSRC race like a kindergartner in a coloring contest. The lines don't mean shit. I am not a good colorer either. I've said it before that if you were to take a close look at every single body that I've ever painted, there's always screw ups on them. And it's why you always see so many stickers on my trucks, because I use the stickers to cover up all my paint screw ups. Yeah, Jam, they couldn't build the jumps. I know Anaheim won. There was issues in between the jumps where the track was still very, very wet because even at that time. So I think it was a good decision. I know there was a lot of people that said otherwise, and that, you know, Supercross is afraid of the mud. Andy Mullins, hello from Southwest Virginia. Well, Southwest Virginia. I am not that far away from you. I'm actually in northeastern Tennessee. I am in Kingsport, Tennessee. I'm about 20 minutes west of Bristol. Failed English class. Left means right, right means left, stop means go, and go means turbo. It's exactly. Go. When in doubt, gas it. I love that turbo. Yeah, I remember the old days of freaking Daytona, the mud races at Daytona. Freaking Kevin Windham in the mud at Daytona was unstoppable. I think everybody knew back in those days that if it was raining in Florida when they were going to have the Supercross at Daytona and Kevin Windham was showing up, pretty much everybody figured that it was a race for second. I don't know what it was about Kevin in the mud, but that guy was an absolute freaking, he was a maniac. And, you know, understood how to get the bike set up to run in the mud like that. Well, what else did we have going on in racing? It really, I mean, we're just now getting an hour from Kingsport. Yes, Andy, there are a ton of spots along the Holston that are great for crawling. My only issue is some of them are really tricky to get to without irritating the landowners. I am about 200 yards or so, 150, 200 yards away from the Holston. When I look out my window right there, I can actually see the river. Been down there fishing a few times. Robert, it's good to see you, my brother. Yeah, I have been fishing down there a few times. I have yet to catch anything out of the Holston River, but I know there are fish in there because I've seen them swimming by. Yeah, I I have a couple trips planned. Probably after March, I have to make a trip to Arkansas in March for some work stuff. But then I am planning on making a trip to go see my friend Jay and Keith up in Ohio at their shop. I also got a few friends that are in Roanoke or around the Roanoke, Virginia area that I need to pop up and see them. And then this summer, I have a bunch of races that I want to see. I want to try and go to. It's kind of my goal for 2023 was now that I'm here and been here for a while and we're getting a little more settled. I definitely want to get out and see a couple races. The big one that I'm looking forward to this year, which is an absolute must, which is I am going to the Bristol lap and speed challenge weekend. Like I said, I'm only 20 minutes away. Last year I missed it because I didn't pay attention. But that I definitely want to go to. Those of you who know, I used to race sprint cars, super modifieds, midgets, and a bunch of other stuff, and motorcycles. And at one point, I actually tried to do a lap speed record there. And I did it for a couple of years, and I managed to have, for a very brief moment in time, a speed record there, but it was broken about 10 minutes after I set it. So that's a huge bummer. But it was one of those records that has been beaten every single year since because cars just keep getting faster and faster. Hey, Nixter, good to see you, my friend. Hope all is well. Yes, I do see that there is a new Element Trail Walker. Paint scrapes, and it looks good. Yeah, I saw Matt. I didn't watch very much of the video. I think I only got through the first minute or so. Yeah, it looks like Element is now getting the Trail Walker body so that it has a patina look to it. So they're, giving it that worn in look, which is, hey, it's pretty cool. I'm a big fan of Element. And I like the Sendero Enduro platform that they've made. They keep coming out with new stuff. And generally, if they've done the update of the Trail Walker body, I would expect that we're probably going to see a new top to that platform come out pretty soon, because it seems like when they do a body revision, they come out with the next version pretty quick after that. Yeah, Nixter, that I, for one, I think that right now the Element Builders Kit and the Axial Raw Builders Kit are the best bargains in that you can see out there. Mr. Voodoo, how the heck are you, my friend? Welcome back. I know that you were traveling abroad for a while, and I believe you are now back in the good old US of A. Good to see you. Yeah, I personally, I think the Element is still the pound for pound best bang for your buck rig on the market. Especially the builder's kit. The builder's kit comes with the aluminum bodied shocks, and I think the builder's kit now comes with the hard plastics. I don't think they put the soft plastics anymore in there. They've done away with that. But yeah, it's solid. It comes with the transmission, with the overdrive built into it, with 2 options. It comes with the gears to do either option. Forget what else it comes with, but again, it is a fantastic deal, and I think across the board, Element actually is done pretty well with their pricing, and where several other companies are not jacking their prices up. Everybody's jacking their prices up on everything right now, but whatever they want to tell us the reason why, the real reason why, and everybody knows it is they just want to make more money. That's all there is to it. Just want to make more money. Hey, it's like everybody else. Everybody wants to make more money, but they have the luxury of being able to raise the prices because inflation and supply chain and blah 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 blah. There is something. I like money too. Next, I am also at work. You can see my work computer over there as well. One of the screens to my work computer. Technically, I'm on my lunch hour. Wednesdays, I end up working a little bit extra time in the morning, and getting started so that I can take some time during my lunch hour and have fun, chat with everybody. Yes, Nixter, that is, I am fluent in SolidWorks. Yes, Voodoo, $6 for eggs is silly. It's absolutely silly. Nice. Yeah, I am very familiar with Mastercam as well. The last company I worked for back in California, I did most of our machine programming there because I would. It's so easy to transfer from SolidWorks into Mastercam. They really do work well together, and we didn't do a lot of machining, so. Rather than to hire somebody that would come in part-time, it was easy for me to take a few classes in Mastercam, learn how to use that, and help the owner out. Robert, normal price. And now, for those of you that don't know, Robert is in the Great White North, like north, super north. So I would imagine that everything that you get up there, Robert, is probably 3 times more expensive just because it has to go through several extra steps just to get to you. Yeah, $1.12. I just, as a matter of fact, my wife and I just went to the grocery store yesterday, and I believe it was $5.60 something for a dozen eggs, and yeah, that is up from, God, I want to say, right before Christmas, we bought a bunch of eggs because my wife uses them to make this special Ukrainian salad thing, and I want to say that they were like 3 something for a dozen, so they've gone up already a couple of bucks. Yes, biggest state in the U.S. and it's not Texas. Alaska dwarfs Texas, actually. And speaking of Texas, I heard something really interesting the other day, listening to an old Joe Rogan podcast, and there is a they were talking about some climate stuff and population, and this professor or scientist guy that he was talking to said that we could build a super city in Texas that would take up about 2/3 of the actual state of Texas, and we could fit the entire world's population in that super city. 8 billion people, and we could fit them all basically in the state of Texas, which would be funky. But it is possible, because I know all the wonderful climate crazy alarmists are in Switzerland this week having a great big party there, talking about what we need to do in order to save the planet. And I happened to be talking to a friend the other day about, the first thing that we could do to, help save the planet would be, let's not have a convention every year in a different location where like 400 or 500 people fly their private jets there and, spew out enough CO2 into the atmosphere that it's, more than everybody driving their car back and forth to work in the state of California for a month. Oh God, no. The whole world would be Dallas fans. I can safely say that even if I lived in Dallas, I don't think I could be a Dallas Cowboys fan. And it's not because I don't I have anything against the Dallas Cowboys. It just I grew up around a couple of people who were diehard Dallas fans, and it drove me freaking crazy. And I grew up as a Pittsburgh and a Chicago Bears fan. Yes, Voodoo, I know you are a diehard Cowboys fan. I would say if I'm a fan of the Bears, I've always been a fan of the Bears. And as a Bears fan, I have a pretty sad existence as a Bears fan, because for such a storied franchise, there is very little recent success. And it seems like success for Chicago comes after long periods of time. And I have to admit, I have not been paying much attention to football for probably the last several years. I don't know, just the NFL lost its shine for me. Yeah, I mean, it. And again, being a Chicago Bears fan, it's hey, take care, Nixter. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate it. Yeah, being a Bears fan and watching my team suck just about every year, or they seem like they're going to be good and then they're just disappointing every year. Yeah, decades of disappointment is. But that, and they've changed the game. They've changed the game, and it really seems like with the way the players have evolved and the strength of players, they're faster, bigger, stronger, and they keep trying to change it so that guys aren't going to get hurt. And I think probably the the first thing that you could do to try and keep guys from getting hurt would be, evolve the safety equipment. Football pads are ever changing and evolving, and helmets as well, but you're always gonna, there's only so far you can go, and to change the rules of the game to try and eliminate certain types of injuries or try to eliminate injuries altogether, me personally, I feel it's part of the game. You get paid millions of dollars a year to play football. That's part of the risk. It's the same risk that a race car driver takes. It's the same risk that any pro athlete takes that is in a sport that is potentially dangerous. I don't know if there's any such thing as a professional skydiver, but if you're a professional skydiver and one mistake and you splat, that's the way it is. So yeah, I think there has to be a certain amount of expected risk going into being a professional athlete, especially professional football, because it's like a super contact sport. And, a guy that can literally run as fast as an Olympic sprinter who also happens to weigh like 220 pounds, it's a lot of mass moving very, very fast. And, another 225-pound guy that can run as fast as an Olympic sprinter, they both collide. There's going to be something that's going to happen. Bastard Boy, professional RC guy. I'm not even a professional RC guy. Because I technically have not really made any money RCing. I definitely have spent. If professional means you spend a lot of money, then I am absolutely a professional. But yeah, I mean, kind of like hockey. Hockey's the same way. I feel like they've kind of changed up the sport to change things. Looking down on fighting in hockey to me is almost sacrilege. Hockey is about brawling. That's what they're supposed to do. That's why you have enforcers in the game, and it's part of the psychological aspect. And then they frown on it, and amongst other things that they frown on. I see a professional hockey player got in trouble because he didn't want to join in LGBTQ ABC nonsense. So now they're going to, basically try to ruin the guy's career, which I'm saving that for a different show on a different day, because I don't want to get started talking about that, because this will be a 3-hour show of me ranting about the freaking lunatics all around the world. One thing I do want to talk about, I'm going to segue into some good news, which is the main company, Nitro Freak. Good to see you, my friend. Thanks for joining and hanging out with me and the gang here in the chat. There is the main manufacturer of lithium ion and lithium polymer batteries, which is, I believe, called the Cli-X or Kyle-X, something like that. They're in China. They are the world's largest producers. They're also the guys that are kind of at the forefront of lithium technology, lithium battery technology. They are going to be releasing larger scale sodium ion batteries in 2023. And sodium ion technology is something that they have been working on for a number of years. And this will eventually trickle down and we'll see a phase out of predominant use of lithium batteries. Because sodium is, it's a much more inert material that they can use in the batteries. It's not nearly as what is that word? I don't want to say explosive, but it's not as explosive and not as dangerous as lithium is. It's also something that is more readily abundant here on the planet. It does not require a bunch of crazy mining techniques and a bunch of really, really hard labor and whatnot in order to get sodium. It is something that's pretty easy to find. You probably go out into your backyard, dig a hole, and filter it all down and get yourself your own raw sodium. They will they you'll see people talking about salt batteries and whatnot. It is sodium, rawest form of salt, but it's not like table salt. Yeah, less waste. These sodium batteries are going to I believe it's gonna change the battery market because recently I know if you haven't, yes, Earl, hey brother, good to see you. Sodium is more stable. It will allow us to have batteries that is less worry of instability if they are punctured. Now there is still some of the dielectrics that have to go in there that could be flammable, but it's going to be much less dangerous style of battery. Because I know that recently I've seen a bunch of articles about people crashing their Teslas, and one of the battery packs will get split and the car will literally burn for 3 days. It'll just keep lighting itself on fire. Anybody who watches Grand Tour knows that Richard got in an accident in the Rimac car and rolled it over and it caught fire. And they were talking about that car kept catching on fire for 2 weeks. It took them 2 weeks to literally put the fire out. No BS. They are selling you a patinaed body. That's pretty much what you're getting. It's still a trail walker. The nice thing is I was calculating it out a couple of months ago and I lost the piece of paper that I had. But where I was at was, I think it is, if you have a base enduro builder's kit and you spend about another $70 or so, you end up getting all the parts that you need in order to build an Ecto or a Gatekeeper. So you get the trailing arms, you have to get the new skid plate, different links for the back, the revised shock towers and whatnot. But yeah, for about $70, you could turn your builder's kit in, or your regular enduro, into a Gatekeeper or an Ecto. I don't know. I haven't seen. I don't know if they're just selling the body yet. So that might, I mean, knowing and seeing Element, what they've done, I would assume we'll probably see that body come up by itself for sale. Because, yeah, I mean, if you're in the market to buy a new truck and you want the trail walker, yeah, but if you already have, 3 Elements and you just want the body, it would be nice. But that would also be a nice little marketing scheme there that, hey, if you want this cool new body, you just buy the body and you get the rest of the truck with it. That's what it said. It might have been what you said there. His truck body. Other was for the price point. I think we get myself an Ecto. Yeah. The only issue I have with the Ecto is I don't like the body. I just don't. All right, you freaking spam email bastards. Now I'm just going to turn my email off because you won't shut up over here. Yeah, I'm not a big Power Wagon guy. I know it's like the most popular body you can buy, in RC. But yeah, it's just not my style. I am more of a modern. I like more modern looking trucks. I like, you know, I like the way the new trucks look more yellow. Yeah, I'm also not a big fan of like solid yellow. If you look, it's very, very blurry. Um, but most of my buggy race bodies were blue, white, and fluorescent yellow, primarily because I raced on Friday nights and Saturday nights, and our track lights weren't always that great. So it was good to have a very, very visible body. Other drawback to that is everybody had basically chartreuse yellow on their bodies as well. So for the same reason, made it easier to see. But yeah, I'm not a big yellow. I'm not a big yellow fan. Um, I don't think. I don't think any of my. I don't think any of my trucks really had yellow. My old Ford Raptor body did have some yellow lightning bolts on it, but yeah, blue and white. That's traditionally the colors I run with. Kind of basic, kind of boring. Um, yeah, talking about sodium and the sodium batteries, um, or back to sodium batteries. Um, I'm hoping that if we see a big move with the electric vehicles going to the sodium batteries, which it seems like Tesla's kind of already on board with it. I think that possibly within a year and a half or so, we might start seeing that trickle down into RC cars. And the one of the big drawbacks was the sodium batteries aren't as efficient as the lithium batteries, so they were still trying to iron out um, getting the wattages the same, but chances are, for the same size pack that we would have, like a 45 mAh pack in lithium, will probably end up being more like a 4,000 mAh pack in sodium. So we'll lose a little bit in the amperage, but we will have the peace of mind knowing that should something happen, your truck, you know, your basher, your racer, whatever, crashes, battery gets ejected, it gets punctured, or it doesn't get ejected, it gets punctured inside your car, that it's not, virtually going to destroy your car, or, some random problem happens while the battery's sitting in your garage and it burns your garage down. So I think everybody's probably okay with sacrificing a little bit of battery life for that peace of mind, knowing that, at least they are safer. Yeah, the other thing I had written down here is I saw on the Scale News update yesterday that Proline is going to be making shocks for the 1/24th scale. And they also had new tires coming out. And I did go over to their Proline's Instagram. I took a look at it. And it looks like they're definitely doing the Pro Spec, which that is a huge plus and a huge step forward for 24 scale crawlers. Because me personally, I've tried a bunch of different shocks. I'm not impressed with any of them. The only ones I haven't tried were the oil-filled hot racing shocks, which, from what I understand, are pretty good. I tried I tried several of just the air shocks, and yeah, they don't work as well. Obviously a set of oil shocks on there is going to make the performance much, much better. The only thing I question is how long is Proline going to make their shocks? Is it going to be long so that it's going to jack the car up real high, and or you're going to have to rotate the shocks around and change, fiddle around with shock positions. What I tried the whole moving the shocks around in the different mounting holes, and again, I wasn't terribly impressed with how it all worked. So that will be interesting to see. Nice to see that the 1/24th micro scale market is still going strong. It's still gaining steam. I'm expecting to see some new ones here. 2023. It has been a little while since we've seen. I think Traxxas's 18th scale is the last one, the last new micro that anybody has come out with. Maybe didn't send them out, but they're way too stiff. Yeah, see, that's the issue that I ran into, Andy, was a majority of the aftermarket shocks that I bought felt too stiff. The springs that they're putting in them are just way too hard, and it's such an oddball size. It's not easy to find like springs. You can't go to Lowe's or Home Depot or places like that and find a spring that'll work. And even to me, I tried a couple Penn springs, and that didn't work very well at all. Right now, Andy, on my SCX24, I'm actually running the Hot Racing air shocks, and I have just taken a piece. You can actually see the little corner cut out of my pit mat that's sitting on top of my table there. I cut out a couple of pieces and jammed them down inside of there, and that's the spring that I'm using in there. Just raised it up enough so it's not completely bottomed out, but it's got a nice droop set up, and there's just enough cushion in there that it keeps the truck from just pogoing all over the place. But yeah, the springs, all the springs that came with those shocks were way too stiff. The one set of springs that they called their soft springs, I tried those, and even cut them down, but they just felt too bouncy. I mean, the problem with not having oil in the shocks is there's not enough resistance in there to keep the suspension from going freaking crazy. Barbecue, good to see you, my friend. Thank you for joining. Yeah, 24th scale. I'm very happy. I'm still working on getting the freaking Phoenix out to do some filming so I can make a regular one of my regular videos. But the weather here has been just about every single weekend I get some kind of rain or wind, and I have some sort of tree issue, and it just eats up time. I have a ton of trees here on the property, and because of the way my driveway winds up the hill, I have trees that anything happens, tree comes down, blocks my driveway, and then I'm trapped in my house. But hey, I complain, but I don't necessarily complain. Wow. Sometimes the Amazon people are pretty amazing. They just drop something off, and the Amazon guy is literally backing down my driveway, which is not is not easy. Not to mention, my driveway makes a kind of an S, and near the top of the driveway, the first S that it makes, if you miss that corner, there is a big mulberry tree there, and then just on the other side of the mulberry tree is my neighbor's house, which if you miss the corner and you bank shot off the tree, you're going to end up right in their freaking living room. Which would suck going into their living room. It is a very, very nice house, and it probably would cost a lot of money to fix the mess. Yeah, Andy, that is one of the other things. I had the same issue with the air shocks, so which is why I don't even have the springs in them at all. Yes, mulberry tree is luckily it's in a spot where it doesn't matter if it's messy. Um, but yeah, they are really messy, and the deer really like the mulberries as well. Um, when that tree blooms and those berries start falling off, I have 6 or 7 deer out there. Um, Basically, every morning for an hour or two, they're eating it, and then every evening. And if we leave to go anywhere and we come back after the sun has gone down, we always have to be careful going up the driveway, because they'll be hanging out in the driveway eating mulberries. They are good. I had never had a mulberry in my entire life, and we actually have 2 trees on the property here. One down the driveway, one up kind of behind the shed barn, and they are pretty good. You know, kind of blackberry-ish, but they are pretty good. My wife actually made like some mulberry muffins last year, which were pretty good. Lucky for me that my wife is a very good cook, or else I would starve to death. So I'm a terrible cook. Yeah, the weather. Yeah, and actually the weather is pretty nice here today. I don't even know how warm or cold it is. It's warm enough that I am able to wear my 51 degrees here is pretty warm. I'm able to wear my flip flops here. I'm not quite in shorts. Um, oh, um, wow, that is a weird one. Yeah, not quite warm shorts weather, warm enough, but it is definitely flip flops in the garage here. I still got my heater running most of the time out here, which keeps it reasonably toasty. Most of the time, I can get away with just wearing a light sweatshirt out here, so that I'm not that it's that I get cold, but it's just better to. Yes, barbecue. I actually I have been I have put on some weight just over the last year. Um, I'm not making excuses. One of the reasons was I was having some knee issues for several months, and I spent a lot of time uh, sitting on the couch. And good recipe for gaining weight, if you want to gain weight, is spend a lot of time sitting on your couch and eating. It works good. You want to put weight on? There you go. But I'm back in good shape. We're actually going to get out this weekend and do a fair amount of walking, which is something that I desperately need. One of those things when your knees get bad, when you're not able to walk around, you're not able to, your other, like my hips started to hurt, my ankles started to hurt because I literally wasn't walking very much. And then when I did get up and walk, not quite muscle atrophy, but just, all the joints and everything just get used to not supporting your weight typically. And so but hopefully we got the knee issues all ironed out. I've had chronic knee problems for years and years and years, and uh, keeping my fingers crossed that I think we got it all ironed out and I should be okay. Yes, barbecue. I appreciated the extra fat this year because we actually had some crazy cold around Christmas. Um, yeah, like a couple days before Christmas, we were running and like 6 degrees, 8 degrees was the high. That was the warm part of the day. Um, there's a couple of days here that the thermometer was just at 0 Fahrenheit at when I would get up in the morning at 5 or 6. One pack stomach muscles, well expensive. Earl, I stopped going to the gym a number of years ago. I stay pretty physically active for the most part. My wife and I do a ton of hiking, but mostly I couldn't handle going to the gym and just dealing with all of the people. That was the part that kind of got it for me was, I'm not a young guy, and going into the gym and having to listen and deal with all of these people. the worst part of it, I think, was is the cost. The cost of having a gym membership nowadays is it's freaking stupid. Yeah, especially I would be in there like 3 days a week for an hour. So yeah, I couldn't justify the money anymore, and I couldn't handle dealing with going in there and having to deal with the 20-something-year-old girl that works at the counter that always has something to say when you walk in there. Oh, it's nice to see the old people. Oh, call me an old person. I have not fully admitted yet that I am getting old, even though I did celebrate the big 5-0 in 2022. But because I don't feel like I'm 50, I still feel like, for the most part, I still feel pretty young. I think physically wise, I definitely feel like I'm about 90. Um, the aches and pains of getting old. Yeah, barbecue. The mind is willing, and if 50-year-old me could go back and talk to 20-year-old me and say, "Hey, take it easy. Try not, the breaking bones, concussions, the numerous times that sprains and torn ligaments. Yeah, when you're young, you're made of rubber and magic. And then probably about the time I was probably 40, 41, 42-ish, I started noticing some random aches and pains. Like, man, I got up today and I don't know, I rolled out of bed and now my back hurts. I'm tying my shoes and I hurt my back. Yeah, that was. If I'm not a day over 28, then I'm in sad shape. if I'm not a day over 28, then it's time for me to might be time for me to invest back in that gym membership again. Hey, Andy, thanks a lot, man. Appreciate you stopping in and hanging out. We're going to be doing this every Wednesday, with the exception, I got to remind everybody, I did say at the beginning, and I forgot that I was going to keep mentioning it. Not going to do a show next Wednesday, but the first official show is going to be in 2 weeks from today, February 1st at noon Eastern Time. And I am going to be joined by a secret co-host. And that's going to be officially episode number 1 of the Shit That Needs to Be Said show. Yep. Take care, Andy. Oh, me, I tried to ride a unicycle again. Ooh. Yeah. The fact that you can ride a unicycle or could ride a unicycle is a testament, Barbecue, because one wheel is very, very difficult. I raced motorcycles for many, many years, and 2 wheels is very difficult. If I had only 1 wheel, yes, I would have. I did break many things. Motorcycle racing in general was probably a poor path choice for me in life. Looking back, I did enjoy it, and I did have a lot of fun. If I could go back and change anything, I probably would change to not crash as much. Like I said, when you're young, you're made of rubber and magic. When you get older, it becomes I do as well. I fall down good as well. 2 weeks ago, I fell going up my stairs. I did a total Joe Biden. Like, I literally couldn't get my freaking feet to work, and I fell going up the stairs of my house. Thank God we have some very cushy carpet on the stairs. But yeah, ridiculous. I also fell down a couple of months ago while I was out dragging tree limbs around after trimming trees. The thing about trees and having trees is it's really, really nice. Get some nice shades. But man, oh, Kevin, it is very good to see you, brother. Welcome. Thanks for coming in and hanging out. Gonna be doing this every Wednesday, except for next week. I'm taking a week off. Just got a few things, coals on the fire that I gotta get knocked out. Next week is gonna be busy. I did pull the total Joe Biden. But yeah, next week taking the week off, and the first official episode of the show will be February 1st. I'm going to post a link on my Facebook page and probably share it to a few groups to let everybody know. Most of you have been in here for a bit, but like Kevin, I know you haven't. This is going to be, I'm going to talk about RC stuff, but I'm also going to talk about everything else. This is not simply an RC chat show, because let's face it, there's plenty of them out there. And this show is unfiltered, uncensored, talk about anything. I'm willing to bet that I'm probably not going to get any sponsors for this program, because I've been making a list talking about subjects and things about things I want to talk about on the show. And at times I and my secret co-host is going to be joining me in 2 weeks. I'm pretty sure that we're going to piss people off on a pretty regular basis, because I know he and I talked yesterday, and I said, there's people that I have I got to put on blast. I got to. You know, people within the RC community, companies in the RC community that kind of piss me off with things, and just shit that needs to be said. You know, it's time. It's time for us to start speaking up and letting people have it, letting companies have it. RD Enduro, good to see you. Yes, that's kind of what I tried to timing here is East Coast getting people on lunch break, West Coast people who are kind of getting their morning started. They might be able to spend a little bit of time. But yeah, you know, this show is going to be unfiltered, uncensored. I'm not going to hold back. If there's a company out there that I think is just, then I'm going to call them out on it. If there's YouTubers out there that I think are being silly or stupid or whatever, I'll call them out on it. If there's organizations out there, call them out. One thing I'm going to refrain from doing, because I don't want to get myself sued, is I'm not going to mention people or organizations by name, with the exception of, maybe a influencer personality or someone like that whose name is already out there. But I do have to be careful. It's something that me and my secret co-host have talked about, that we just have to keep from saying directly people's names. Most of the time, I think people will know who we're talking about, but we can't say it, because if we say the name out loud, then that opens up the floodgates of people getting lawyers and all that silly shit, which is something else that pisses me off. And probably something that I will also talk about at some point, which is, the sue happy world that we're in, and the fact that nobody is allowed to say their opinion anymore. You can't have an opinion about anything anymore, because you might offend somebody. Makes me want to freaking stick my head in a bucket of icy water. Don't even get me started about this freaking LGBTQ nonsense and climate alarmists, and enough. I don't know if anybody saw he's a comedian. He's actually from Russia, but I think he lives in Great Britain, was raised in Great Britain, and he was in some kind of debate, and he laid out a very nice speech about climate change and how we fix things, and how the younger generation nowadays is just, they're bordering on freaking useless, because all they know how to do is bitch and complain and be offended about everything. And yet they want to stand and lecture everybody about how, it's my fault for driving a Ford F-150 for most of my life and my GMC Sierra truck, that it's my fault that the freaking planet's taking a shit and that we have bad weather. My fault. Me and my truck. Or the farmers and their freaking cows farting all over the place. Come on. And this gentleman said, let's stop worrying about what all these super rich people keep telling us, and let's take all this pent up energy and frustration and oppression and all this bullshit that this generation comes in. Let's take all of that and apply it to, let's find a cheap, renewable energy that doesn't mean we have to use freaking child miners in the Shabara mines of fucking Africa who work 12 hours a day with a freaking rock hammer and a brush and a thing to mine cobalt. Let's find a clean, renewable energy that's actually affordable. It's got to be out there somewhere. Otherwise, all this crap about we got to drive electric cars that'll only go 50 miles on a freaking on a charge. You know, it ain't gonna work. You know, I know personally living in California, your average commute in California is 30 or 45 minutes. Now, if I gotta go out and buy a $90,000, $110,000 Tesla, because reasonably they're the only ones that make a decent electric vehicle right now. So far, everybody else's looks really nice and looks really fancy, but yeah, I mean, Tesla's got it, but the cheapest Tesla you can buy right now is 45 grand, and it has a range of 267 miles. So if you have a 30-mile or a 40-mile commute, it means you're going to be doing 100 miles a day back and forth to work. If you go anywhere after work, or you want to go out to dinner with your family or do whatever, you basically be charging your car every couple of days. Also know that folks in California are also dealing with an electricity shortage. The state that mandated they're not going to sell anything but electric vehicles after 2030. They're telling people that they can't charge their cars at night because there's not enough freaking electricity going. This the madness. So again, that's the kind of crap that I'm going to talk about on this show. RC that doesn't need mods, or what I mean is I've never bought one that didn't need upgrades. Companies sell the upgrades. I like to install them. Everybody wins. Yes, Kevin Gibbs. The common sense. I talked about it last week. Common sense, common decency. It's really in short supply nowadays. Enduro, I think that the push from manufacturers for RTRs is they're trying to appeal to the lazy generation that don't want to build their shit anymore. That's just the fact of the matter is that people just it's like your phone. You just want to open up your phone and you want to scroll through and read what news you got and then put your phone down and play your game or whatever. They want everything to be super easy and super accessible. And, having to sit down for 8 to 12 hours or, 2 days or whatever to build a kit. It's why we see so many RTRs nowadays. And I know when I build a kit, there's always some level of upgrade or customization that I do when I'm building the kit. I already know what I'm going to want to change when I'm buying the kit. And I will generally buy a few upgrades before so that I can just build those upgrades right into the kits. And RTRs are, for all intents and purposes, it's a great way to start. It's a great way to get people introduced into the hobby. But for every RTR these manufacturers release, they should be releasing a kit version of that gets rid of like the crappy electronics that nobody wants to use, the crappy steering servo that nobody wants to use. Provide a kit. Don't even put wheels and tires in it. I don't even mind if you don't have wheels and tires in there. Sell me a kit. Maybe give a couple options where you have a kit that's got a body in it and wheels, tires, or just a kit that's got nothing but bare bones slider, and you put everything else in it. Because that is, to me, that's part of the hobby. That's part of what this is. I remember the very first like hobby grade RC car that I got was a Tamiya Grasshopper, and I've got to say I was maybe 9 or 10 at the time. So I was not mechanically inclined enough to be able to build all the tricky stuff myself, but I was able to help my dad build that kit. And I distinctly remember, my dad and I sitting at our kitchen table in our house, putting together this kit that they bought for me. I don't remember if it was a Christmas present or a birthday present, but they bought it for me as a present. And, the two of us sitting there, and I wasn't doing a lot of the actual work, but my dad made me sit there and watch him putting all of this stuff together so that I understood how things worked. And I know once he put that car together, he never worked on it again after that. I worked on that. I was the only one that ever worked on it. So, at that point I learned part of that. And that's part of the hobby. Part of the joy of the hobby is, knowing the ins and outs and the very particulars of your, all the vehicles in your RC stable. My first scale trail truck was the Axial CRC Jeep RTR. And that was 3-4 years ago when I bought that. And I think I had it for about a month before I completely tore it down to every nut and bolt and put it all back together. I had taken it out probably 3 or 4 times before I did that. And at that time I had gotten back in RC, but I had gotten back into off-road racing. So I was already, working on my race buggy on a regular basis. And I kind of just started with getting the Jeep because I wanted something that I could take out and when my wife and I would go hiking or something, and basically like taking a dog out to walk, but I was walking my RC car. Bubba Q, I do as well. I remember the 75 hertz and the 27 hertz radios with different crystals. I remember racing in the it was in the 80s, and I remember the first guy that came out to the track with a 27 hertz radio, and the fact that he didn't have to impound his crystals. So nobody else had a 27 man, so he was the. And yeah, I remember that was so freaking cool. Back in the days when you basically had like 2 choices of like high-end radios, and that was your Futaba or an Airtronics. And that was, KO Propo was starting to come in, but yeah, you pretty much had 2 choices. So there was the Asosi Losi battle and the Futaba and Airtronics battle. Had to give it up. My tremors are not controllable, but I still love to watch vids and keep up with what's new. I'm sorry to hear that, Mr. Gibbs. My a member of my family is suffering through some health problems that is keeping them from being able to do some things that they have done their whole life. And I know that is something that takes its toll on you mentally. Plus I know from my own experience and in being a racer for most of my life, almost 30 years of a racing career, that I wanted to continue, and I decided to retire shortly after my wife and I got married because I had a relatively simple crash that didn't really do anything, just a couple of cuts and bruises, but it took an incredible mental toll on my wife, and I didn't want to continue putting her through that. And I would suggest, keeping watching the videos and things like that, keeping attached to it. It helps. Finding something that can sort of supplement that, the mental aspect of the hobby. Man, I gotta turn my freaking heater off. It's getting freaking hot in here, man. Robert, I had a fly-by-wire plane when I was younger. And barbecue, I did have, I actually had a Cox fly-by-wire plane, and I had the Cox engine probably up until like 2001, 2002, when I was in a move somewhere, and I misplaced a bunch of stuff, and I lost a bunch of my old hobby stuff that I had kept. I still have, there's a can sitting somewhere on one of these shelves that has a first series Nova Rossi nitro engine in it. So it was one of like the first 200 Nova Rossi engines that came out. And it's in several pieces, but it is still here. That truck right there still has a Nova Rossi engine, and this on-road nitro car actually has actually it has a fairly new OS engine in it. But I do have the old Redhead style OS engine that originally I had in that car. I did used to do a lot of nitroing. Let me see if I can move. That is those two plaques right there are actually Turkey Night win and the Norca Division I Championship plaque for Nitro Oval Racing. I don't know if anybody even does Nitro on dirt oval anymore. It seems to be that sort of faded away, disappeared over time. Kind of sad. I always liked Nitro. Yes, they were a freaking pain in the butt to keep them tuned and to keep them running all the time. But they were they were really fun to run, and they were always really entertaining to watch. Our local track in Camarillo was big. We had, good 30 foot straightaways. So we could get them gas trucks and gas modifieds and gas. We ran gas sprint cars for a while. We could get those things buzzing down the straightaway, easily 60, 70 miles an hour. And they were absolutely deadly. The walls on our track were only, maybe 12 inches above the dirt. And a lot of them had started to bow out from the mud pushing out on them over time. So literally, if you hit the wall, most of the time the cars would just launch off into the pits. And for the most part, everybody had something hanging on the left side of their easy up, because it was pretty common cars getting launched into the pits. So everybody had to put something up to keep the car from just smacking you in the face. I still have a scar on my right leg shin from getting beamed by a nitro gas truck, which would have, it's easily 90s, 20, 30 years ago. Plain use. Yeah. Yeah, sorry, I was missing some of the comments there. Yeah, it's a stick. Oh, corded remote. Yeah, still, that's pretty impressive that it still works. Oh, man, Lincoln Log Tinker Toys. You know, about a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago, we were in the Bass Pro Shop store that is just outside of Knoxville, and they sell Lincoln Logs at freaking Bass Pro Shops. I was walking by and they had a little play area there, and there was a bunch of Lincoln Logs sitting there. And then as I was kind of walking around looking, I came across the little toy section. Yeah, they still sell Lincoln Logs, which is I had Lincoln Logs when I was a kid. And yeah, Tinker Toys is another one. Tinker Toys were I think Tinker Toys were almost better than Erector sets. Um, because the erector sets were always there was always too much to do to get everything put together. Tonka trucks. I have speaking of Tonka trucks, Robert, I have a Tonka uh, dump truck that is in a box in my garage. It was actually my Tonka truck when I was a kid, and as far back as I can remember, I had that truck. And I know looking through some old photo albums, I want to say that I must have gotten that truck when I was maybe 6 or 7 years old, because that's right about the time when I start seeing it pop up every once in a while in a picture here and there. Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of My mom for a number of years kept a lot of my toys. I wish I had a ton of Star Wars stuff. I wish that was the kind of stuff that my mom had kept. But yeah, she kept a few random things over the years, and most of the time, as I started getting older, you just start thinning out. When you're moving, you start thinning stuff out, and a lot of toys and stuff I was just getting rid of. But that Tonka truck I wouldn't get rid of because I mean that thing it's still play I could still play with it. And I remember when I was young I could sit in the thing, and I used it like a freaking go-kart. Spear fights. Yeah, parents have a tendency to overreact when it comes to kids throwing sharp objects at one another. Yeah, barbecue the Tonka Winnebagos, and I had one for years and years and years, um, and I don't know what happened to it. I could have sworn when we left California that I had it, and I haven't seen it since we've been here in Tennessee. And it was one of those toys that I had when I was a kid. Um, and I didn't even know what I had in it. Um, yeah, Kenner Star Wars figures they're worth a fortune. Hey, thank you, Robert. I'm probably going to go for another few minutes here, and then we're already past an hour, and I've I've been trying to keep them at an hour, but it generally doesn't work that way. Um, yeah, Kenner Star Wars toys. I know right now the most sought after and most expensive Star Wars figure is it was not even a real it wasn't a figure that was sold. It was an original like pre-production Boba Fett where his rocket actually ejected out of his backpack. And as far as I know, there's only 2 in existence. And there's a guy that he lives near George Lucas and Skywalker Ranch, and he has the world's largest collection of Star Wars stuff. And I know he has one of them, and he knows the person that has the other one. But yeah, and I believe he's had people that have offered him, like $100,000 for that Boba Fett. That insane. And I remember I had a ridiculous collection of Star Wars toys. Yeah, me and my best friend, we lived next door to one another, and we had figured out that we didn't double up on anything. So when we would ask our parents for something, we would always ask for something that neither one of us had. So that way, when we got together and we were playing, we just had everything. We did the same thing with G.I. Joes. Just the only G.I. Joe thing that I never got, which to this day, I would still love to have it, is the freaking aircraft carrier. It would take up like way too much space, but yep, the little slot in their arms with a lightsaber came out. All right, Robert, take care. Have a good week. I do have a Lego General Grievous. He is right there. And I also have Boba Fett, and I also have Kylo Ren. He's kind of behind the Phoenix, but this is God, what the heck is the name of that company? I don't even remember the name, but there's a company that makes these super cool detail figures, and we actually have several more in the house. We have the entire Fellowship of the Ring from Lord of the Rings, and then we have almost all of the characters from The Hobbit from the same company, but those are in a glass case in the house. But yeah, General Grievous, that was it was cool. We had gone to Disneyland, and I was kind of sick, and we decided that we were going to hang out at the hotel. It was like midday, and we were going to go back to hang out at the hotel for a few hours so that I could just kind of rest and then gear up and go back in the evening. And when we were going back to the hotel, we stopped at the Lego store, and I got General Grievous, and my daughter got something, but we spent like a couple hours in the hotel building freaking Legos. And yeah, I still got my Grievous because he's cool. Grievous is one of my favorite villains. Now, obviously, Darth Vader is the coolest villain pretty much that ever existed, but Grievous is pretty good. And that is, I know it's kind of blurry because the StreamYard will only let me go 720, but that is my original Star Wars helmet. That was original toy release from 1978. I have kept that forever. And that is this Kylo Ren helmet that had this funky voice thing that I ended up having to crack the back open and cut all the wires to it because I could never talk around it. Nowhere in the room could you be talking because you would hear it in the background. Yes, barbecue. Disney has ruined a great many things. I think Disney's brand is very damaged at this point. I believe that the phrase "go woke, go broke." There is no better example than the Disney Corporation, whom I know they lost $145 billion in 2022. Ooh, collecting beside RC. And I just pointed out some of the stuff that I collect. Yeah, bills. Yeah, I think that's a collection that everybody. Um, Me personally, Kevin, I through for a number of years, being a big Disneyland and Universal, um, fan and going there quite a few times. I have amassed quite a collection of like park park memorabilia, stuff that you can buy pretty much only when you're at one of the parks. Like for instance, my good old butterbeer mug from Universal Harry Potter Land, which hopefully someday somebody is going to get the recipe for making butterbeer the way they do at Universal Studios, because it is delicious, absolutely delicious. I The first time we went after Harry Potter Land had opened at Universal Hollywood, I actually made myself sick by having too many butterbeers. It is a very, very sweet concoction that tastes kind of like cream soda. And then they put like this cream vanilla froth on the top of it. And I think I had like three of them, and they come in this mug. And I think I had like three of them on the first day that I was there over like a 2 hour period. And yeah, for like the next hour and a half, I was sick to my stomach. Like, oh, I overdid it. And I can only ride the 3D Harry Potter ride once. I can go on it one time, and then when I get off, it takes me about 30 minutes for everything to get back to normal because it generally makes me sick. And it also gives me a headache. Hey, ooh, it's an RC car. Good to see you, my friend. Thank you for joining. Hey, yeah, don't forget to smash the like button. And if you're not subscribed, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and, hit the bell for notifications. And a reminder, every Wednesday at noon Eastern time, we'll be doing this show, the Shit That Needs to Be Said show. And February 1st will be the first official episode of the show. And I am being joined by a co-host who am I keeping secret until we do the first show. Everybody's going to be stoked because we're going to have a good time. That's what this show is about. It is absolutely 100% necessary to just hang out and shoot the shit and not be, sort of funneled into just having a show that's just one subject. I know we all love RC cars and we can talk about RC cars, but we also have other things like Kevin Gibbs said, other than RC, what do you do? What do you like to do? Where do you like to go? What is the thing that is pissing everyone off today? Unfiltered, uncensored, talking about whatever the hell we want and not being afraid to offend people or make people angry. I know that I got one thing that I'm going to talk about, a particular YouTube personality that I'm extremely disappointed in. And it's sad. It's sad that I'm disappointed in him. But I feel like he established a legacy in the RC community. And unfortunately, to me, it feels like over the last year, he just shit on everything that he had created over a long period. And that's, RC Sparks. I know it's, just my opinion. I think whatever you want with your lifestyle, whatever you want to do, go and do it. But you established something with your fans, with the family, with everybody, um, that over years we came to enjoy your content. And the fact that unfortunately RC is one of those hobbies where you can get burned out on it, and the RC community is one of those things that you can absolutely get burned out with the community at large. And I can appreciate it, and I can appreciate that he's doing things in his life. But you made a life for yourself. You established kind of his own legacy, and you should have stopped. You should have just stopped and said, hey, you know what, I'm going down a different path, I'm going to do something different, and not brought some of that into as you were transitioning. um you know to each their own. I don't have any problem with what you want to do with your life. Your personal life is your personal life. Me personally, I think that influencers on any social media, um, keep your personal life personal. I'll talk about my wife here and again, and maybe some things that I do with my wife, but I keep our personal relationship personal, because I guess I'm old school that way. And nowadays it seems like everybody wants to freaking share everything about every aspect of their life. And let's have let's get back to having some societal decency, and let's get back to having where it's okay to keep your private life private. I don't need to know every aspect of your life. You don't need to know every aspect of my life. That's why it's called a personal life. um, then part of the big issues that I have with the LGBTQ community is the fact that they want to share every aspect of their life with everyone, and they want everyone to accept it. And I don't force my lifestyle or my opinions or my things on anybody. And I don't think anybody has the right to do that to anyone else. It's private. Keep it private. Recently I was talking to a friend about an interview that I saw about the World Cup, and it was a British woman journalist talking to one of the princes or whomever of Qatar. And she was asking them that why they don't allow, homos behavior. They don't allow this, and they don't allow things, and um, homosexual behavior in public. And he said that why they don't allow homosexuals in their countries. Like, what, you mean to think that our country doesn't have them? Of course they have them. We don't condone public displays of affection by anyone in any kind of relationship. It's part of our social decorum. And this woman simply couldn't understand it. What do you mean? What, you don't like, homosexual people? And like, no, there's plenty of them here. There's plenty of them here that go about their normal daily lives, being just a normal daily life. And she couldn't understand the fact that, heterosexual, homosexual people in Qatar do not approve of public displays of affection of any kind. Why is that a problem? I don't understand. I don't obviously, understand a lot of things about what's going on in society today, but that does come along with age, I think. People, as you get older, the generational gap starts to happen, and I honestly do not understand the younger generation right now. I don't understand what they want. I don't understand where they're going. And I honestly feel like 20 years from now, we're going to be in serious trouble if these are the people that are running everything. The the people whose answer to everything is meh. Yeah, there is part of the reason why I wanted to start doing this show is I think it's time that we start having discussions about things that now need to be said, need to be talked about, and talked about in a forum where, you know, you talk about anything you want in the chat. You got a question, you want to talk to me, you want to bring the subject up, type it into the chat. Hey, what do you all think about this? That's what this show is for. It's you know, I want this to be more, you know, like a community chat, where we can, you know, where you feel free to voice your opinion without, you know, somebody getting all upset and threatening to punch you in the face because you don't like something or you don't approve the way somebody's doing something. You know, and like I said, I think moving forward, I know that people are going to get angry because I'm going to say things in the future about people, about organizations, about companies that are going to make people angry and are going to upset people. And people are, you know, probably say nasty things about me and bad things, but I don't give a shit anymore. I'm at the point now where it is what it is. You know, I want people to be held accountable. I want people to remember that politicians have always been lying, cheating scumbags. And the fact that we're trying to prop them up on a pedestal nowadays and we're trying to listen to what these jackasses have to say is silly to me. They're all dirtbags. It doesn't matter what political party you align yourself with. There are scumbags on both sides, and it is far and few between that you find any of them that aren't completely full of shit. And the reason why this country is so divided is because, for whatever reason, we forgot that politicians are, for the most part, pieces of shit. You know, there's always an exception to the rule, but yeah, they for the most part, they are human garbage. And the reason why politicians become politicians is because that's all they can do. You know, at this point in time, I used to hold teachers in very, very high regard, but it seems like nowadays it's very hard to do that because teachers don't care about kids anymore. Politicians don't care about us. They raise taxes on us. They don't care. Screw around with the money and cause inflation to go up. And now we got to pay $6 for a freaking pack of eggs. They don't give a shit. Most of these people are making millions of dollars. And most of these people are breaking the law half the time. They don't get busted for it. You know, and, you know, politicians right now, especially on both sides of the aisle, they have dirt on each other. So they're not going to sell out one another, because if this guy over here tells the truth about this guy over here, then this guy over here is going to tell the truth about this guy over here. Both of them are screwed. Yeah, UK is terrible. United Kingdom with their VATs and taxes. I think the world in general, the idea that socialism is the way to go in the world, and that, you know, you should try to evenly distribute everybody's money out to everyone, is a recipe for disaster. In the history of mankind, socialism has always led to dictatorship, and that is quite simply what we're seeing right now. Now, there is no better example as to the people that want to become the dictators. You look at the WEF Davos convention this year. You know, this guy, Klaus Schwab, I don't even understand how he is in the prominent position that he is, because he is quintessential freaking Bond villain at this point. It's some of the crap that this guy has said. You know, I don't know if people pay attention, but Klaus Schwab actually said that we need to get rid of 2 billion people off the planet because we're overpopulated. Matter of factly, well, we need to get rid of 2 billion people. I don't know. How do you put them all in a freaking rocket and launch them into space? And, just dig a big hole, put a bunch of people in there, light them on fire, firing squad. I don't know. You just got to get. Oh, Kevin, don't even get me started on that woman. The amount of times that woman stopped legislation from going through the House of Representatives or Congress in general that would stop them from being able to trade in the stock markets and their families from being in trade in the stock markets. Yeah. Liz Cheney is a perfect example. That woman was in Congress for 6 years. Her net worth when she went into Congress was $7 million. Net worth, $7 million. 6 years later, she left Congress. She lost her election. 6 years later, she left with a net worth of $42 million. If you do the math, that a congressperson makes about $250,000 to $300,000 a year, it's pretty difficult to get that much money in 6 years on just your salary. Yeah. And Nancy Pelosi, yeah, her husband has made tens of millions of dollars. That is a good question, Mr. Gibbs. And part of the reason why they won't go after her is, like I said, each side has dirt on each other. They won't sell each other out because when Democrats sell out Republicans, or Republicans are going to sell out the Democrats, and then they all lose. So they have an unspoken rule that there's a certain line that you're not allowed to cross. It's politics. It's the same everywhere. It's probably very similar in the UK, where essentially there is, like I said, there's a line that the politicians won't cross because they know that it's the end for both of them. If both sides tell the truth, they both lose. Because quite frankly, if the people of the world knew how bad politicians screw us on a regular basis, it would be hard to keep there from being lynch mobs everywhere. And there's legitimate reasons why, probably 2/3 of American Congress, senators and representatives, probably need to be thrown in prison. I mean, legitimate reasons. I can think of just right now in the news, the president of the United States, they found a bunch of classified documents in cardboard boxes in his garage. And they found these boxes way back in October and November. They found a bunch of these classified documents months ago. And in the interim that they knew he had this stuff improperly stored next to his Corvette and at his little think tank place, he knew. And yet he still sent the FBI to raid Donald Trump's house to find classified documents. Then he went on television and gave an interview talking about how incredibly irresponsible it was for Donald Trump to have these classified documents in his house. Now, I don't know if you've seen pictures of where Joe Biden was keeping his crap, is literally in like cardboard boxes and next to garbage and shit in his garage, compared to Donald Trump, who's keeping them in boxes in a closet in an office in Mar-a-Lago, which already had security cameras all over the place. But on top of that, he's got his Secret Service detail from when he was president also guarding Mar. So it wasn't like it was going to be real easy for you to walk into Mar-a-Lago and just start siphoning through boxes, much like, going to Joe Biden's house in Delaware when he's not there and busting the lock open his garage and filtering through the crap that's in his garage. So again, why is that? Why is that happening? Why is and yeah, again, that's a subject for a show that is definitely coming up, which is going to be talking about the government and the double standards. Going back a couple of years, I know personally, California, they locked us down. They didn't want anybody going to work. You couldn't go to the grocery store. If you went to the grocery store, they were only allowing so many people in. You're wearing freaking masks. People literally losing their jobs left and right because companies were going out of business left and right. And next thing that happens, we turn around, our freaking governor is at a restaurant with a bunch of his buddies eating dinner without mask, inside. And then when people actually called him on, he was like, "Oh, we've all been vaccinated." Whatever. I think anybody pays attention to the news knows that the vaccine ain't all that great. Not technically a vaccine by the original Webster's definition of a vaccine. That means you get a shot and you don't get polio or smallpox and you can't transmit it. But of course, when you talk about the Rona, you get the vaccine 47 times, but you can still get it. You can still give it to other people. And technically, it's supposed to keep you from having to go to the hospital, which, yeah, for crying out loud. Again, politicians, people have forgotten. And honestly, I think it's a lot of young people that just haven't learned how full of shit our politicians are. And it's probably something that every other generation has to go through in realizing that, oh my God, what? These people suck. Not only do they suck, but they don't even like me. They take my taxes out of my check. They don't ask me. They just take it. I'm paying their salary. And they hate me. Thompson, have a good day. Yep, I am going to wrap the show up again. I want to keep this going for an hour, but it seems like it's always going to overrun because there's always so much to talk about. There's always so much going on. Not just in the world of RC, but in the world in general. And that's what I'm hoping is going to be the great part about this show, is everybody just being able to, to hang out and, bash the hell out of some people and, say things that unfortunately need to be said, like going back to RC Sparks. I like the guy. I like his content. I thoroughly enjoyed years of Loading Wars and the gold mine thing, and even before that, the years of the tough truck stuff. And his content was excellent. And unfortunately, he decided to make a change in his life, and he's going through a transition period. And he decided that he really needed to share that with all of us. And I'm a little disappointed. I would have rather, Aaron just said, "Hey, you know what, guys, I'm burnt out on RC. I'm burnt out and I'm going to go do some other stuff. And every once in a while, I might throw an RC video out. But you know what? Here's my channel. Enjoy the legacy. Enjoy the content that I created. And if you want to see more and you want to go down this new path with me, well, I'm going to go down on that path over there. Tune in over there and watch that channel. If you don't like what you see over there, then don't watch that channel anymore. You can always come back to this channel and enjoy, the fun times that we had." Yeah, Chainsaw, I actually unsubscribed to his channel. And I was kind of sad because there were literally, several years ago when I was getting my business kicked off and I was out of work, and, quite frankly, I was bored. Loading Wars helped me keep my sanity. I would say Loading Wars probably kept me from drinking. just because it was just fun to watch, and the gold mining stuff was fun to watch, and it all changed, you know. And then the whole feud thing that kicked off between him and Talbot last summer, which to me seemed like the thing that ended, Sparks, and the reason why he walked away was all of that. But yeah, that was unnecessary drama, unfortunately. And I, since unsubscribed to Talbot's channel just because, he seems to have, he seems like a fun guy who has fun with RCs, but at the same time, their drama seems to follow some people around, and it's unfortunate. But you know what? We're going to end on a happy note today. And the happy note is, starting 2 weeks, February 1st, I'm going to have a secret co-host who's going to be joining me right here every Wednesday at noon Eastern time. And we're going to continue on with these conversations. We're going to continue on, and I'm going to bring up some new stuff. I'm going to try and hit that first show a little bit mild, let my co-host ease into things and not, dump the weight of the world. But I thoroughly enjoy doing this, and I have missed doing live shows. I have, unfortunately, couldn't continue on doing it before, but I'm so glad. After talking with my co-host, a lot, I'm so glad that he agreed that doing a show was going to be fun, and we were going to have fun with it, and we're not going to stress. We're not, I personally, I've worked to grow my YouTube channel, but it's more kind of a hobby thing, and it's not, if I piss everybody off and everybody unsubscribes to my channel, it's going to be tragic that I'm going to have taken years of work and thrown it down the drain. But I personally believe that, it's time to start having some conversations about things. It's time to start having some conversations about where things are headed. And, I want to have that conversation with as many people as possible, because I honestly, and judging by the comments, I honestly believe that there's a lot of people that agree that, things are getting a little out of hand. And, honestly, I think we're going to start a ground up movement to start putting some of the nonsense to bed. Let's start getting this, people who get easily offended over shit, and the RC community as a whole, some of the things that go along with, niches and cliques and all of that, where, you're a part of the club and whatnot on the surface, but behind the scenes, you're not really a part of the club. You're not really part of the team. That kind of stuff, people who are just fake about things, and they, yeah, Kevin, the YouTube is not something, unless you've been doing it for a while, unless you have some kind of financial backing that can help you get your channel to grow, it really isn't feasible for anybody to start a channel and make money at it nowadays. And I know, like probably a year ago, Harley on one of his Friday night streams talked about, how little actual money that his channel makes for him. And this is a guy that's got, 70,000 subscribers. But I mean, the days of starting a channel, growing it up to millions of subscribers and getting a ton of views, I think that is on its way out, partially because I think YouTube Shorts, Reels, TikTok, I think they're ruining long form content. And I also think that people of this newer, younger generation right now, we've gotten them so reliant on their phones and instant access to everything that they've lost their attention span to be able to watch 5 minutes of video. they can handle watching 30 seconds at a time, and then they got to swipe up to the next one. And that is kind of scary. And it's also unfortunate because I think the days of independent YouTube creators being able to come in and build a community in and of itself around their YouTube channel, I think that is unfortunately something that's been disappearing. And that is something that I would like to bring back. I would like to, and I think if you're focused on one thing, if we're only in here talking about RC, this show is going to get stale and old. Got to talk about everything. And you got to talk about stuff that might make people feel uncomfortable. But that's all right. It's all right to be, it's all right to have an opinion about things. It's all right to talk about things. It's all right for us to be able to freely talk about things. And it's also all right for us to disagree. That's the other great part about my co-host. Co-host and I are friends. We've known each other for years now, and we don't always agree on everything, but we're able to talk about things that we don't agree on. And we're still friends. It's amazing. Nowadays it seems like if you don't agree on everything with somebody, they don't want to be your friend anymore. They're going to kick you to the curb. If you voted for Donald Trump, I don't even want to be a part of your family anymore. I've actually, there are actually people out there that did that. They disconnected themselves from their family because they like a politician. Insanity. Like I said, I want to end it on a happy note, and I get distracted. And the happy note is we're going to keep doing this every week. We're going to be hanging out here. We're going to be chatting. And yeah, if you agree on everything, life is boring. So be sure to come back. Join me here in 2 weeks with my co-host, 12 o'clock Eastern time. And yeah, let's talk about the shit that needs to be said. And everybody, have a great rest of your week. Stay safe out there. I know there's some areas where there's freaking weather is going crazy right now. So make sure you're safe out there, and have fun. Most of all, have fun. Everybody needs something that puts a smile on their face. And if you're having a hard time finding something right now, don't lose hope. Don't lose hope. That's my biggest message for everybody is don't lose hope. Good things always come along. And if you keep working at it and you keep pressing forward, things will change. And there's always a surprise around the corner. There's always something new around the corner that you're going to discover that you never seen, never heard, never knew about before. And it's out there. So, we'll see you in 2 weeks. And in the next 2 weeks, go out there and search for that thing that you haven't found yet. Something that'll put a smile on your face. And yeah, we'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you all very much. Have a good one.